Greetings everyone and welcome to another special Halloween closer look video. This time around we're going to be taking a look at a collection that I don't think I've ever shown you guys before, or really talked about very much, but it's one that's very near and dear to my heart, very special to me. Specifically, a stack of cassettes. What could these cassettes be, I wonder? Well, the answer to that question is Halloween horror tapes. So many Halloween horror tapes. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Yeah, so as you can see, I kept the backings of all of these. They're not all in the greatest of condition. I mean, you can see where the plastic was ripped off and whatnot. But the interesting thing about these was, from 1991 to 1993, I collected a whole pile of these. And what I did was I would keep the backings, because I liked the artwork on them. And then on the back, I would actually write when I got them, where I got them, and give a little rating out of 10 about how good I thought the tape was. So I thought it would be fun to actually sit down and take a look and go through all of these and see the collection. I'll match up the tapes with the backings and we'll check them out. Halloween horror tapes. Let's head down to the black box and I'll show you what I got. Okay, so let's start with the one that began my horror tape buying obsession. The House That Died. Yeah. So the thing that prompted me to get these was I heard them playing the second side of this in the store. And I just thought it sounded really good. It was really creepy and spooky and had a good mix of sound effects. Let's see what I thought at the time. Oh, okay, so side A, story, side B, sound effects. Awesome! Purchased October 1991 at the IT store in Portage Place, Winnipeg. Note, side B is definitely top-notch. Ratings, story, I didn't even rate it. I cared that little about it. And sound effects, 10 out of 10. Definitely one of my best horror tapes. Just amazing. So, yeah. As I recall, the story itself was kind of so-so. It was one of those just single narrator stories with sound effects and music. And I just remember the narrator being a little too over the top. It was a female narrator, and she was just like, and then I was in the house, and I was so scared.
I became paralyzed with fear. I knew then that all the stories I had heard about the house were true. I had only one way out. The window. But it was too high to jump. I could have been killed. This could not be happening. This could not be real. It was more than a week before the psychological wounds had healed.
It's just like, wow. Put more fake feeling into it, please. Now, from the same people who produced The House That Died and the outstanding sound effects compilation that accompanied it, we also had Haunted House. Now this one, let's put side one there, because it's so different. So this one is another single narrator story. This time it's a guy, and he speaks very calmly like this.
It was on Hallows Eve. The night was dark. Scattered lightning revealed glimpses of the barren countryside through the driving rain. There was a mysterious eeriness in the air. The landscape was still and deserted. Yet deep down I knew I was not alone. I felt the presence of other beings all around me, not necessarily human.
It literally sounds like he's about to fall asleep the whole time. But, I don't know, it kind of works. It's a two-part story, so it actually covers both sides of the tape. Part 1 leaves off a bit of a cliffhanger. I actually really like this, and I still listen to this every Halloween. Sometimes I play it in the Twitch chat, so if you happen to stop by around Halloween, maybe you'll be able to hear it. So here we go. Side A is part 1 of the story. Side B is part 2 of the story. Purchased October 1991 at the It Store, Portage Place, Winnipeg. Good old-fashioned haunted house story. Well written and a bit chilling at times. One of my favorites. Rating 9 out of 10. Oh, there we go. We're off to a flying start here so far. Okay, sounds the house that died. And then finally, we had one more from the same people. We have Halloween Tricks and Treats. Now this is another story one. It's basically another two-part story that's spread across both sides of the tape. And this one is actually a full cast presentation.
The piercing scream echoed through the dark, deserted halls of the old mansion. It broke the stillness of the cool October night.
Let's get out of here. I'm right behind you.
We can't. If we leave now, the guys will never let us forget it.
He's right.
Frank felt a tinge of panic. He knew they were right, but he really didn't want to stay in the house another moment.
How did we ever get ourselves into such a mess?
Don't ask me. I wasn't...
But he stopped suddenly. The other boys had heard it too, as if someone was walking through the hallway behind them.
Has some kids playing, well, kids, and it has the guy from the haunted house story in it, and I think it has the girl from the other one in it too. So basically, you know, full cast, sound effects, music, and it's a lot of fun. I actually like this one. So side A is part 1, side B is part 2. Surprise, surprise, purchased October 1991 at the It Store in Portage Place, Winnipeg. Good old-fashioned Halloween story told in radio play fashion. Yeah. Even as a kid, I was always a fan of the old radio dramas and such, so this kind of stuff was right up my alley. Next up, we have Spooky Halloween Sounds. This cassette tape features monster voices, cackling witches, Frankenstein footsteps, wolfman howls, barking dogs, squeaking doors, Dracula sounds, and much more. And you can see where it tore when I took the plastic off. Great for Halloween parties and fun. I filled in the blanks there. So the actual title of the tape was Eerie Sounds for Halloween. Same label on both sides here. And let's see what I thought of it at the time. Oh, didn't rate this one as highly. Actual title, Eerie Sounds for Halloween. Both sides are the same. Purchased October 1991 at the It Store in Portage Place, Winnipeg. Wow, they were just like the go-to place for Halloween horror tapes, weren't they? Rating 7 out of 10. Really, that's all I said? Wow, I could have sworn I had a deeper review of that. Interesting to note, not punched. Kind of rare, and so valuable now that I've written all over it too, eh? That's great. Anyway, that was Eerie Sounds for Halloween, which actually, in the years since, has become one of my favorites. There's some good sounds on there. Next up, we have Horror Sounds of the Night. Oh, I love how most of these tapes actually have the Halloween colors of orange and black. Very nice. So there we go. 30 weird minutes, spine-tingling Halloween. Yes. And it's from Halloween Creations. Let's see what we thought of this one here. Same on both sides. Note, sounds like it was taped off a record. Oh, so this is like one of those really old janky recordings that they just threw on a tape. Cool. Purchased October 1991. Last horror tape bought this year. Okay, so this was the end of the 1991 purchases. From Metro Drugs beside Weeb's Foods on Rothesay Streets in Winnipeg. Overall, not a bad horror tape. Would be better if it didn't sound so 1950s. Wow, really? My cranky 20-year-old self there See, now I actually like this one because it sounds so 1950s. So, yeah, I guess the nostalgia factor hadn't really set in yet. I was still in my stupid 20s and didn't know any better. Ugh. Anyway, this next one. This one I would see everywhere. It was like one of the most commonly available horror tapes. Just pull it back a little bit there. Sounds of Horror, or De Bruit Horrifiants. What? Horrifiants. Horrifiance. There we go. It's total horrifiance on this. So there we go. So we got the mummy holding the cassette for you. Very nice. Okay. So this is a pretty common one. You'll hear mention of this a few times. And chances are those of you who have picked up Halloween horror tapes in your travels probably have a version of this somewhere in your collection. So this is from, I got a little more specific with the dates here. I think this was actually the year when I started writing on the back, so that's why the previous one didn't have the specific date, it just had the year. But here is when I actually started keeping track of them. So it purchased on Thursday, October 15th, 1992 at Grandin Toy. Grandin Toy is a stationery store, like for office supplies, so kind of odd to find a Halloween horror tape there, but I always kept an eye out for them wherever I was. Second floor Portage Place in Winnipeg. A short piece of sounds repeated over and over, and not very good ones either. 3 out of 10. Oh, brutal. I'm pulling no punches with that review. Yeah, and for some reason, this is the one that you kept hearing over and over again. Yeah, case in point, we have this from Fun World. Halloween Sounds. Actual title, Thriller Chiller Sound Effects. Yeah, same label on both sides. There we go. The reason I say case in point is both sides the same. Purchased on Thursday, October 15th, 1992 from Shoppers Drug Mart at Portage Avenue, Winnipeg. Note, same as Sounds of Horror cassette, except clearer recording. So I gave it an extra 0.5 out of 10 for having a slightly clearer recording, but still ranked pretty low. So there you go. One thing I notice about a lot of these horror tapes, and these two in particular are perfect examples of that, is not only are they often the exact same recording, just repackaged, but I found a lot of them use the same stock sound effects. They just do their own mix of them. So it's almost like there's some... Oh, hello there. There's almost like some public domain collection of sound effects or whatever that a lot of these companies got a hold of and just quickly threw together their own mix to cash in on the Halloween season. And it's unfortunate. So whenever I find one that actually goes to the effort of doing something original, it's like, wow, they actually did something different. I mean, you'll still hear a few of those stock sounds in the mix, generally speaking, but it's always interesting when you stumble across one of those ones that they've actually put some effort into. And we'll talk a bit more about those when we get to them. So here we have... What do I even say this one is called? Well, the actual tape says Chamber of Horrors, so that's like a proper name. But on the backing, it's Cassette Horror, or La Cassette Abominables. Voices, sound, music, great Halloween fun. But un marveleux divertissement pour le Mardi Gras. Hey! It's the Mardi Gras in audio form. So this is actually a really cool label. I like this a lot. This design on here. Like, wow, they actually put some effort into the label artwork. So if we look on the back here, oh, quite a lot to say about this one. Okay, actual title, Chamber of Horrors. Exhibit A. There you go. Purchased on Thursday, October 15th, 1992 from Woolworths on Portage Avenue, Winnipeg. It's funny, I wonder how many of these stores are actually still around. Interesting little time capsule there. Disco jazz music plays while some guy keeps on saying Happy Halloween and laughing. Most sound effects ripped off from Sounds of Horror cassette. Oh, there you go. Same piece repeats over and over. Interesting, but not really effective. Irritating after a while. Rating 4 out of 10. Yeah, so I played a bit of this for a friend of mine. I should also note the beginning of this tape begins with the most blatant ripoff of the opening strains from Michael Jackson's Thriller I've ever heard. So it starts off with a bit of a Thriller ripoff, and then it gets into a fairly standard mix of sound effects. Now, again, this is another one I've kind of reevaluated in later years, and the only problem I still have with it is the fact that it's this guy saying, "Happy Halloween!" over and over and over again, like literally every 30 seconds. So I played it for some friends, and they determined, well, I guess this is meant to be played like at the door for trick-or-treaters, so they would only hear one or two instances of Happy Halloween. But of course, if like me, you're listening to it for pleasure and ambience, you're hearing it a lot more than just once or twice. But speaking of reevaluation and listening to it again, I actually really dig the mix of the sort of progressive jazz music and the Halloween sound effects. It's an interesting combination. So this one's a bit of a mixed bag for me, honestly. But overall, I like it. Now, this is an interesting one. Now, you remember, I'll just show it to you here first off. We have Haunted Mansion, and look at the beautiful artwork on this. They actually really did a nice job on the artwork and the packaging for this. It's really quite nice. Same artwork on both sides. The ultimate in sounds of horror. And then if we look on the back, yeah, so side A, so it's actually, both sides are different. So side A is part 1 of the sound effects, side B is part 2. That's also rare. Usually you just get the same thing repeated on both sides, but in this case, both sides are actually different. So side A starts with dogs howling and has Toccata and Fugue in D minor, a favorite of horror tapes, playing throughout most of it. Side B starts with thunder and female screams. I guess I wanted to differentiate that because there's nothing on the label to indicate what side A and B are. So I just took note of that when I first got it and first listened to it, and assumed I was listening to side A first, because it was where it started. Purchased Friday, October 9th, 1992 from Hallmark Gifts, Selkirk Town Plaza in Selkirk. Yes, that's the mall from Multimedia Chronicles Retro, if you guys remember. Not bad, except most sound effects ripped off from Disney's Haunted House sound effects album. Good mix of those classic sounds, however, with some new stuff added, rating 6.5 out of 10. Now, yeah, so of course, as I talked about in my assessment or, overview of the records, I listened to this a lot as a kid. So I'm quite intimately familiar with the sound effects on this album, and I could tell in seconds that that's where they got most of the sound effects on that Haunted Mansion tape. So I kind of wonder, did the people who made this actually get the rights to use these sounds from Disney, or was it kind of shady and under the table? It's like, oh, they'll never know. Whatever. The 90s, eh? Gotta love it. Okay, good thing I pulled back for the record, because this next one's quite sizable. We have The Ride of the Headless Horseman. And look, slightly different color scheme on the cassette. We have a blue cassette with an orange label and blue lettering. Quite cool. And 2 sides there. So this one is kind of similar to the House That Died tape, in that side 1 is actually a dramatized reading of The Ride of the Headless Horseman. And I should mention, the guy who does the narration for that sounds kind of like the guy who used to do the voice for Winnie the Pooh, but it's not him. It just kind of sounds a little bit like him. But actually a really good reading of it, I gotta say. Really well done.
Ichabod was approaching the Sleepy Hollow Bridge. He was almost across it when, all of a sudden, right there in front of him, a huge black figure rose up out of the night.
And the other side is all sound effects, which many of which were used in the dramatized reading. So they call it the Sounds of Sleepy Hollow. So it's pretty cool. This is actually a really good tape. Let's see what I thought of it at the time. Okay. See, recorded. I mean, look at how much stuff there is on the back. Also, the back is full color. You don't see that. Like, normally the back is just blank, and that's why I was writing on them. But this one, like, holy crap, they did so much artwork for it. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. So let's see. So it says, recorded live in the village of Sleepy Hollowville at the Ichabod Crane Studios. Okay. Side A, Ride of the Headless Horseman. Ride along if you dare. Sorry, reading this from a distance here. Side B, The Sounds of Sleepy Hollow. Quail, woodpecker, owls, bats. Commons firing? What? Oh, cannons firing. Horses. Winds howling. Moans and groans. Stacking foot... What? Does that say? Oh, stalking footsteps. Bones crunching, screaming, dogs and wolves howling, and cats shrieking. Wow, that's amazing. Warning, do not listen to this recording alone. May be hazardous to your health. Parental guidance suggested. So, purchased on Saturday, October 31st, on actual Halloween day, at Kmart on Henderson. Yeah, it's also in Winnipeg. Side A, 8 out of 10. Side B, 7 out of 10. Well, that is a stellar rating. That is some quality Halloween horror tape action right there, folks. That's some good stuff. So next up, we have another one from the same people who did the Ride of the Headless Horseman. We have Haunted House, not to be confused with the other Haunted House tape. This one is different. So this one is just a collection of sound effects, but once again, both sides are different. So much like how Ride of the Headless Horseman was story on one side, individual sound effects on the other, it's the same thing with this. So on this side, you have essentially mixes of sound effects to create different ambience. And then on this side, you just got individual sound effects, so you can make your own. But of course, who had the means to do that at the time in the 90s when everything was tape to tape? So we've got a very nice purple haunted house on one side. And then here, we got this on the other side. So there you go. So this is the chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house. Wait a minute. Chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house. Chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house. Uh-huh. Okay. Not saying anything. Side A. Take the trip through the haunted house if you dare. Turn your home into a scary, chilling, fearful domain of monsters, ghosts, and goblins. 6.5 out of 10. Side B, laughing gremlins, witches and ghosts, screaming humans, heart beating, clock at midnight, chains rattling. This is way easier to read font. Squeaky door, howling dogs, shrieking cats, coyote, flying bats, monster-making laboratory, and music from the fourth dimension. Warning, do not listen to this recording alone. May be hazardous to your health. Parental guidance suggested. And purchased the same day, same time, Saturday, October 31st, 1992, at Kmart on Henderson. And I gave the sound effects 6 out of 10. Yeah, I prefer ones that is just a mix. Like, I don't want to make my own. If I want to make my own, I'll make my own. I'm not going to use your sound effects for it. I'll make my own damn sound effects. And then here we have, oh look, it's the house that died again. Why do we have that again? Well, let's take a look. Purchased on Saturday, October 31st, 1992 at San Francisco in Eaton Place. I lost my original copy, so I had to rebuy it. Yeah, I suspect what happened was because I was ranting and raving about how awesome the sound effects side of this was, I might have lent it to somebody and possibly never got it back. Yeah, and this is one of many reasons why I tend not to lend things to people. But note, unpunched this time, so obviously got to keep that backing. Very nice. I like it when it's unpunched because then you don't get anything, breaking up the artwork. Okay, so this is an interesting one. We have Sounds of Horror cassette. Let's pull back a smidge. Which is actually Horrible Sounds of Halloween. Oh, that's really coming through nice and fluorescently, isn't it? There we go. Trippy. It's almost like it's glowing. Ooh, spooky. So we have 45 thoroughly terrifying minutes of spine-tingling sound effects. Great Halloween fun. And on the back, we have our review. Again, wow, I waited until like the last minute to buy a lot of these. Maybe I just didn't have any money for the rest of the month. Who knows? Actual title, Horrible Sounds of Halloween. Both sides the same. Purchased on Saturday, October 31st, 1992 at Zeller's by Penner Foods on Henderson Highway. Yeah, well, I can tell you for sure Zeller's isn't around anymore. Target came in and took over. Well, Zeller's went out of business. Target came in, took over, and then Target went out of business. And that's that, at least here in Canada. I know Target still exists in the States. Anyway, rating 7.5 out of 10. Notes: eerie music, good sound effects, witch laugh taken from Sounds of Horror tape, all other sounds original. Yeah, I think it's more like the Sounds of Horror tape took the witch laugh from whatever that public domain source of sound effects is. That we hear on all of them. I swear you hear the same damn witch laugh on every single one of these at least once. Okay, and next up we have... Oh, another one called Halloween Horror Tape. I sense a trend here. And this one they actually did call it Halloween Horror Tape. Look at that. Beautiful. 60 minutes of terror. 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 Because that's how you spell terror. Okay. So anyway, Halloween Horror Tape, and then on the other side, oh, look at that. They're so cheap they didn't even bother to put a label on the second side. No, the label did not come off. This has actually never had a label on it. It's only on the one side. At least it's easy to see which is side A and side B, I guess. So what did we have to say about this one? Actually, not bad artwork, I gotta say. It's quite nice. But, on the back, oh, actually pretty good rating. Purchased on Wednesday, September 29th, 1993 at the IT Store in Polo Park, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Wow, I think that's where it all began, when I originally bought those other tapes. Let me just quickly check the backing on that. Let's see. How's the die? The one where it started. No, it was the IT Store at Portage Place in Winnipeg. Alright, so it was a different IT Store. But anyway, 6.8 out of 10. 6.8? Really? I'm starting to get that anal about the decimal points? Come on, 20-something-year-old me. It's ridiculous. I was 21. I was 21 at the time. Alright, so finally, we have this one, which is Halloween Sounds of Horror. As I recall, this one is really good. I really like this one a lot. Some creepy synthesizer, ambience, and a good mix of sound effects. And pretty cool artwork on there as well. And there we go. Side 1 and 2. Clearly labeled, always nice. And on the back, oh yeah, here we go. I'm not really saying much about them. I could have sworn I did more in-depth reviews. Oh well. Purchased on Wednesday, September 29th, 1993 at the IT Store in Polo Park, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. 7 out of 10. Now, worthy of note, this is one of the few that has actually had a re-release on CD. Yeah, check it out. The CD version, it's not a straight-up re-release. This was a 30-minute cassette. This one's 45 minutes. But the nice thing about the CD is a much clearer recording, I guess, you know, straight off the master tapes. And a slightly different mix of the sound effects, but very similar. It's all the same sounds and music, you can tell. Like, there's no huge difference there. And then if we open it up. Yeah, no, actually very nice with the disc art. And for fans like me, it's a bit of a treat to get an upgraded version of one of your old faves, you know. It's like getting it remastered on Blu-ray, except it's audio from cassette to CD. And last, but certainly not least, we have a mystery tape that I guess didn't come with a backing, or maybe I lost it, or I don't know. So we'll call this the last audio cassette that I ever bought of horror tapes. We have Spooky Sound. And I'm pretty sure Spooky Sound is exactly the same as those other two horror tapes that I said were the same, just repackaged yet again. So basically 3 different versions of the same one. So it was these ones here. So these are all basically the same tape, just marketed under different names. So buyer beware. So there you go. Quite a cool little collection, I'm sure you'll agree. I mean, I've always been a huge fan of audio drama and radio drama and sound effects and ambient, atmospheric stuff. So, and horror, of course, and Halloween. Gotta love horror and Halloween. I mean, this is a standing set. I have this up all year round, so that should tell you everything you need to know right there. So, having stuff like this, I have all of these digitized as MP3s now, so I can just pull them up and make a playlist of them if I want to, and I don't have to keep playing the tapes all the time. It's great for just kind of getting in the Halloween mood or just setting a particular atmosphere of spookiness, and I love them. I've always loved these, and always will. Alrighty, so next time will be the last closer look before Halloween. So continuing on with our journey into my audio collection of auditory horrific delights, well, we covered the records last time, we covered the tapes this time, so next time we're going to check out my Halloween horror CDs. Oh yes, we've gone digital. That's next time. Until then, thanks for watching. Big thanks to my Patreon sponsors. Be sure to catch me on Twitch. I stream just about every day, and I'll see you next time. Until then, sayonara.
Happy Halloween!